Ladies and gentlemen, it's a beautiful day in crypto. Welcome back. My name is Louis, and this is another daily article. Let's get right into this beautiful news today. So Bitcoin just hit 120. It's not showing up on my charts, but let's look at the overall crypto market really quick, and we'll get right into Bitcoin and then get into the other news I have for you guys today. Because Monday and this week coming up is going to be an amazing week for crypto. We've been waiting for this. We might get some clarity this week, but we'll get into that later in this video. So let's check it out. So total crypto market is 3.71. We got Bitcoin at 119, but it's really at 120, ladies and gentlemen. For the first time in history, Bitcoin hit 120. It's a beautiful moment to be with you guys and enjoy this. Now let's look at the rest of this. What I'm looking at is the dominance of Bitcoin. You get me? So it just hit an all-time high, but yet the dominance of Bitcoin is declining. So that's pretty interesting. You know what I mean? It looks like the rest of the alts and other things are getting pumped as well. So that's pretty cool. Look at gold. Gold is doing okay. A little bit of a drop. It looks like it matches the Bitcoin dominance chart a bit. And then we got Ethereum sitting at 3,000. It just hit the 3,000 mark. I still think this is a good asset. Okay, like regardless of the FUD and all the other bull stuff, you know, the FOMO, everything, the bad, the good. This is still a good asset if you want to invest in it. XRP 291. Is it going to hit $3 by the end of this week? Coming up, we'll see. I don't know. All right, let's get into this news. All right, so like I said before, crypto week is ahead of us. All right, and we've been waiting for this moment for a long time. Remember, if you guys want these articles, I am going to post them on my profile, so you guys can head over to X at the King Louis and you can read the articles for yourself. But let's just go through really quick. So basically, one of the things that they're going to go through is the Digital Asset Market Clarity Act. So basically the Clarity Act, and this basically is kind of changing the infrastructure, because we use the Howey test right now to figure out if something is security and whatnot. And then it also goes into like who actually has jurisdiction, who's going to be having that role in the future, or can we write something up to see what happens? So the roles of the Securities and Exchange Commission or the Commodities Futures Trading Commission, so the CFTC, usually goes back, and it has been going back and forth between them when it comes to like, you know, regulation in a way. But basically, since 1933 and 1934, when it was enacted, this is what we've been using as a test for something against securities and stuff like that. So you can read through this, go through it if you want to know more about that. All right. Moving on. And then we also have the Genius Act. Okay. So we have this act right here, the Clarity Act. All right. And then we have the Genius Act. And I'm not sure if they're going to be passing these, voting on them or whatnot, but they are going to be talking about them. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be some live streams, so you guys can go to YouTube or wherever you get your information and follow them and see what they're going to say. It's always good to tune into this stuff yourself, so you don't get it from secondhand sources like me or another YouTube or X. It's always good to make sure you always do your own research, okay? Nothing in these videos are financial advice, it's just information for y'all, okay? So we have the Genius Act, and it also subjects issues the Bank Secrecy Act and sets provisions for the events of stablecoin issuers going insolvent. So there's a lot of stablecoin stuff and CBDC stuff happening this week. We're going to get into some information to see if there's some telltales of what's happening with Tether, but that's a little later, okay? So then we also have the Anti-CBDC Surveillance State Act. So basically, they're going to vote or talk about the Federal Reserve creating or the central banks creating a CBDC, which would be programmable. They'll be able to have a lot of power over it. They'll be able to print money and make money disappear type stuff. It's very sketch. So that's going to be a couple of things they're talking about in this week coming up. All right. So check these articles out. There's a couple of quotes and stuff. Senator Elizabeth Warren and stuff like that. So look at it. All right. Moving on. So this is some XRP news. Hopefully XRP breaks that $3 mark. You know what I mean? Not financial advice, but hold, y'all. Hold. Okay. Don't sell too early. All right. But basically, you guys can go through this. I'm not going to cover. This is not a full XRP video. This is just, you know, a video on news. But basically, this is telling you about like how there's only 100 billion. Demand pushes the price up. And then it goes down here and it talks about like the escrow and whatnot. And there's a lot of like, what is it called? There's a lot of like conspiracies out there about their escrow and whatnot. But read it for yourself. Look into it. It draws some things right here. It's pretty crazy, 10,000, but you know, depending on what they create and what they do, they might get that much money. we're talking about trillions of dollars flooding into these markets. Okay, we have the Senate and all these people talking about it now. It's going to move mountains for sure, for sure. This new system of digital assets and stuff like that are going to move things, and we're going to cover some things right now. All right. So basically, JP Morgan Chase starts charging PayPal, Venmo, Coinbase, and other customer account data after of years of free access. So we have to see the writing on the wall with this thing. Like, if you read through this article and stuff like that, what I see with this is they're not going to be making as much money with the like Visa and MasterCard charges and stuff like that, because some of those systems, they charge them because they have to wait to get the funds. There's just so much to it. They're not going to be able to get that money anymore, especially with digital assets and these currencies that are coming out that are instantaneous. There's no middleman, there's no back charges, all that stuff. There's no late fees, or you know what I mean. It's a new structure, and it's a new way of us doing our financial things. So I think this is just a push for them to create more capital in another way, since they're losing capital in one way. Because these are conglomerates. You guys have to understand, they got AI in the background running these scenarios and whatnot. So JP Morgan's trying to get a foothold on a different way. Like the whole idea of Web3, where it's like your data is your oil. The data I have, you're going to have to pay me for my data. So you're going to have to pay me to be a customer type stuff. If you're charging other people to use my data, then I'm going to charge you to use my data to give to them. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where Web3 is going to change a whole lot of things, where especially if you're like a person who makes a lot of transactions, it's like, I rather give my data to these people because I know they're not going to sell it or try to do something in the background to advertise me something in the future. But yeah, so I just see them trying to do something and corner the market in a different way. But it is what it is. JP Morgan, not surprised. Okay, let's move on. So basically, this is pretty cool, and I already knew this was going to end up coming. So basically, the cryptographic fix for U.S. elections is still sitting on the shelf. So they're talking about how machines are still lack the key securities to fix flag stuff, and it makes the U.S. elections vulnerable. I already knew this. The whole idea of a digital ID and voting. This was started back when they started saying the election was stolen and all this stuff. If it was stolen, it was stolen. If not, I really don't care. For me, I just saw that as theater for them to introduce something like this. So basically, yeah, blockchain voting, you only get one vote, and it's registered to your digital ID or whoever you are and stuff. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. Like I said, paying attention to these articles, you can see the writing on the wall and the direction in which we're going in. So yeah, check this article out. It's pretty interesting. All right, came out today. All right, moving on. All right, so this is what I was talking about earlier with like how much money is going to flood into this market. And this is a key representative of that when we're talking about ETFs. Okay, so basically, real world assets tokens are the new ETF. So basically, it's kind of like if you guys are familiar with stocks and REITs, you know what I mean? You get paid for holding real estate and all these different assets, but you're going to have all these baskets of cryptocurrency that are connected to real world assets. So you will have something where it's like an ETF where it's nothing but high rise buildings, or ETF that has nothing but commodities in it, or ETF that has different fiats in it, or an you can go down the line. You can have an ETF with just digital art or NFTs in there. So that's the thing about this. It really paints a broader picture of what you can do with blockchain and this system. So when we talk about ETFs, they were usually based on stocks and different things like that. But now with tokenization, and we'll go into that. For those who don't know about tokenization, we'll cover it right now. Just let me get this out really quick. But basically, with tokenized assets becoming ETFs, it's going to drive the market in a crazy direction. Okay, so for those, I know you guys, some of you who are here know what tokenization is, but this is basically what it is. So it is basically something put on the blockchain, but a token can be anything. So these tokens can represent physical assets like real estate, or financial assets like stocks, offering benefits such as programmability. Sorry, can't even speak. Um, composability and operational efficiency. So, for instance, you can put a house on the blockchain that's getting built, and it has to be built by a certain time, but that liquid money is still on the blockchain as a transaction. When it gets done, the person gets paid for it. That smart contract is closed. It's a token. Now it gets transferred over. It's that all that money stays on the market. Do you get what I mean? It doesn't really come off the market unless you're transitioning into something that's in a real world. And I'm not talking about ads. I'm talking about buying a bed or something. You know what I mean? But even then, it gets put into someone else's token bank. But moving on. All right, it's gonna be pretty wild for the world in a few years. Okay. So really quick, hold on. There was something else. Oh, okay. Those two went together. Okay, so Tether to end USDT redemptions on Bitcoin Cash, Algorand, and beyond. So it's pretty interesting that this came out this weekend with the week we have ahead of us. You know what I mean? It just paints a. It, I don't know. They don't want to be regulated. I don't know what they're doing, but I'm just saying now, not financial advice. Be careful holding a lot of money in Tether. Okay, just be careful. That's all I'm gonna say. You guys can read through this and pick out what you want, but just be aware that they're gonna stop. Like, yeah, it's just crazy. It's supposed to be interoperable. You're supposed to be there's not supposed to be a walled garden. Most, especially when you're talking about a stable coin, for most things you want to be able to flood into every market. Like, why is Tether putting themselves in these positions? We know why, but for those who are new, try not to hold a lot of Tether. All right. So on the other side of things, this week in crypto gaming, so off the grid token has hit Solana and more, but the game shut down. So I don't know if it's operating back again, but I think it shut down to expand and fix some quirks or whatever. But basically, the gaming and crypto is taking off as well. So off the grid, I try to play it. I didn't get too much into it, but it was a pretty good game. Like, I played when it first came out, and it's pretty cool because there's NFTs in there. I don't know about this 666 thing. Yeah, kind of weird to me. But moving on. So yeah, if you guys are looking for a new game that's crypto based, or want to just check out the crypto industry when it comes to like gaming and stuff, check these games out. There's plenty of places you can find them. You can just Google it, and it'll point you in the right direction. But be careful. Don't be connecting your wallets to any of these platforms until you know what the game's about. Okay. All right. So this kind of goes with Tether in a way, but and what we covered this whole video. But Bank of England chief sounds alarm for big bank stablecoin issuance. So he basically outlines the risk of issuing like loans, and just the risk of having stable coins. And what he is basically offering, like we said before, having a real world asset that's on the blockchain. Okay, what he is saying is basically when we're setting up or giving these loans out, make sure that there is a tokenized deposit over a stable coin. So basically something that actually already has value, that's not just a digital currency that's made out of thin air. Tether. I'm just, anyways, I know they hold bonds now, but it's not how they started. Anyways, tokenized deposits, and I like this idea. If you want to get a loan, if you want to do something, bring us something in return. And, you know, this is the type of market where you have to be responsible. If you want a loan for something, then put your money where your mouth is, or shut up. Sell what you have to start your idea. You know, so it talks about like major banks issuing stable coins, and it talks about the risk of financial stability of lending, and different things like that. So check it out. That's all I have for you guys today. Remember, keep your emotions out of this market. I know we're at a high right now. Things are going great, but just remember your plan, stay grounded, and don't get taken over by FOMO and all that stuff. There's going to be retracements. There's also going to be legs up, but just remember, stay grounded, stay emotionless, and continue to work this market the best of your ability. Continue investing, not financial advice, but accumulate. Okay? My name is Louis, Royal Productions. Thank you guys again. Peace.